Okay, so I think we're starting now. So I'm here with Wendy Davis. You are running for the state chair for the Democratic Party of Georgia. So to give a little bit of background, and then I'm going to let you do your stump speech. I want everyone to hear kind of what you have to say. So there's been a lot going on in Georgia. Nikema Williams stepped down from the state party chair position, as well as we've had some changes to our bylaws and rules, which have made now a full-time chair position available for people to run for that. And you're one of the candidates. So I kind of want to give you a platform, let you kind of talk about whatever you want to hear, whatever you want to say. I've got two or three questions. One being your stump speech. So go ahead and kind of tell us why you think you should be the state party chair of Georgia for the Democratic
Well,
Party.
first of all, Andrew, I want to thank you for this opportunity and thank you for being the kind of person that we need to grow more of, right?
Yeah, thank you.
People who are gonna take it under their own volition to lift other people's voices up and to have important conversations
Yep.
and have conversations that should be important to more people,
Yep.
right? So thank you very much for offering me this opportunity and for being involved in the party.
Yep.
You are one of our state committee members.
Yep.
You're one of the 317, I think is the number we're
Yeah,
at
some
right
some
now.
huge number.
Yeah. So, but that's a small number when you think
Right.
about the millions of people in this state and the millions of voters in this state. And you are one of the voices that is going to be heard on May 3rd to determine this next chapter in the Democratic Party of Georgia. And I'm delighted that you're digging in and wanting to find out more. It's a very important decision. Like you said, we've changed the bylaws to match what's happening in other battleground states,
Yep.
where we will have a chair who's no longer a fabulous volunteer leading our party in between their other obligations, right? Their other financial and work obligations, but it will be their full time job.
Yep.
And again, my name is Wendy Davis. I live in Rome, Georgia. I've been involved in the Democratic Party of Georgia since I was a youngster. Um, I worked my way up through the Young Democrats. I was a leader of a Young Democrats chapter in Fulton County, and then quickly moved into leadership of the Young Democrats of Georgia, and eventually ran for and was elected president of the Young Democrats of Georgia twice. Um, Let me just continue with some party
Yeah. Keep
activities
going.
from there. Um, I uh, I will talk about my work in a moment, but when I came back to Rome, which I went to college at Berry College and then grad school at Emory, um, but when I came back to Rome in 1999, I got involved in the Floyd County Democratic Party and have been in leadership positions here in the local party. Gosh, probably 20 years of the 25, right?
Yep.
Recently stepped aside from actually holding an office in the local party to let other people come in and have a role. But I'm still very actively involved and helping our leadership make sure we're continuing to grow and thrive as a local party. I've been on the state committee for more than 20 years. And in 2012, I had the great honor of being elected to serve our state party as as our representative to the Democratic National Committee. And
Okay.
I've been reelected to that position 4 times. And so I get to meet 2 or 3 times a year with folks like me and folks what I sometimes call, they're big shots. I'm just a everyday activist, hardworking gal, but there are a lot of big shots on the
Yeah.
DNC. But I get to meet with them and find out what other states are doing. And I've been trying to bring back a lot of those good ideas here to Georgia and have connections all over the country from that position at the DNC, in addition to my work opportunities that I've had. Why that matters is because we have a lot of work to do in transforming our party. And part of that work is engaging with people across the country for fundraising purposes, and also to make sure we're stealing their good ideas and implementing them here in Georgia. But so my involvement being a DNC member puts me on the executive committee of the party. So I have been in party leadership um, all of my adult life in one way or another. And why does that matter? Not because I've been here so long, but because I do the work and I've done the work. Professionally, I've been a political consultant most of my career, and I've worked on campaigns at every level of government. Um, I've been elected twice. I was a Rome City Commissioner, which is like city council.
Yep.
And then I ran for Congress in 2022 because that dreadful woman, Marjorie Taylor Greene, moved to my town and decided to run for Congress and got elected in 2020. And I could not stand the thought of someone not standing up to her. Um, wasn't successful. Um, but, work wise, I have been involved in successful congressional races, and I've run two statewide races here in Georgia, one run campaigns across the country. And I was a remote worker before remote working was cool.
Yeah.
At the time, it was a cutting edge technology. In 2010, I started producing telephone town hall events across the country, which are a terrific engagement tool that I have helped um, elected officials and candidates and progressive organizations and labor unions connect with people and have real interactive conversations with their constituents, voters, members, potential donors, right? And it taught me a lot. I've worked across Canada. What the biggest message I got in all of those different places is people want to be heard,
Yeah.
and that leaders who are willing to listen, like really listen and share information, are the most successful leaders. That collaborative spirit, that transparency and accessibility has been a part of who I am as an advocate, part of who I have was as an elected official, the kind of leader I've been in statewide groups that I've been involved in. That's what I want to bring. That breath of not top down, but all of us being in it together is what I want to bring to this new chapter for the Democratic Party of Georgia. It is not time for us to have yet another person in Atlanta telling us what we're supposed to do at the last minute.
Yep.
We have got to repair the damage. There is damage from last year, not just the loss, but from people feeling um, disrespected and unheard. And we've got to fix that. And
Yeah.
I'm willing to get out and do that work. Frankly, I was built for that work, to be somebody who is listening and engaging and letting people do the things they want to do, freeing them, supporting them, embracing people who want change, and making sure that we are all working together and moving forward, even if we're doing different tasks.
Yep. So
Um, Go ahead.
you've talked a lot about what you're doing. So one of the
Yeah.
things and what you've done, so 2 points that I really kind of want to, I know we talked about rural voters, just to kind of give a background. You're in Rome, Georgia, so that's more, would you even classify that as like exurbs of Atlanta, or are you even further out than that?
No, we're not just the exurbs. I call us small town America, small
Yeah.
town
Okay.
Georgia, which to me is what most of quote unquote rural Georgia is. It's the people who the businesses in their community have to thrive
Yeah.
based on just who's there,
Yeah.
right? They don't have a swirl of people coming in, right,
Right.
to lift them up. We're lucky in Rome. We are a little bit of a center of people coming in there, and we actually are quite a tourism center, which
Yeah.
is exciting. But it's about making it work with your neighbors. And politically, our party has missed the mark time after time. It's not just 2024, where we speak, yes, rural voters are important, but we don't put the time, the attention, the work, the understanding in. And that's again where I feel like my lived experience of I grew up in Atlanta, in Metro Atlanta. I grew up in Roswell. I never expected to be in my dad's hometown of Rome, Georgia. I never expected to be in college here.
Yeah.
Best 4 years of my life. It was amazing being in
Yep.
college at Berry. But now I have spent 25 years living here and understanding daily what is different about living in rural Georgia. And there's so much about it that is beautiful, that is a strong sense of community and neighborliness. But you have to talk to people differently here than you talk to people in Washington, D.C. And I think that's one of our problems as a party is we take those national talking points, that national messaging, and try to just like one size fits all it, stick it across wherever we're reaching out.
Right.
And I think the gaps we saw in 2024, the voters we were losing, show us that that one size fits all, top down approach is not what we need. And frankly, I've been talking about that a long time. That
Yeah.
we have to. It's not that we have the wrong ideas. We have the right ideas. We have the absolute right values for America. We care about freedom and liberty and justice and equality and lifting our neighbors up. That is real. We just haven't been communicating that in authentic ways with the right trusted voices to reach the right people. And I feel like we can change that and we have to change that.
So how are you going to do that as state chair? And what are some of the you mentioned kind of things you've seen in other states.
Yeah.
I'm not sure specifically which states you're talking about, but let's just throw out, say, North Carolina. I know North Carolina is kind of really big in the news,
Yeah.
especially as honestly, it's like a golden child for like where the Democratic Party is really growing in the Southeast. So what are some states that you can give an example of and things that they've done that you would like to bring to Georgia to bring conservative or more rural voters into the mix?
Sure. And again, what they did in North Carolina is, first of all, they changed their model to have a
Hmm.
full-time paid chair, right? And they got a dynamic woman who was putting in the work and out there and being herself,
Yeah,
right? Being real and lifting up other people's voices and other people's stories to show that the entire state matters, right? They've been doing big work in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, they work really hard, right? Like there are all kinds of states doing it. But the reality is, it isn't like there's a silver bullet. You have to say these 5 words, and that's going to be the magic. It's about putting in the work. And the great news is not just those 300 people who you and I serve with on the state committee, but hundreds of other people across our state have raised their hands at one level or another and said, I want to be a party leader. We're in this really strange place where some people are sitting around waiting for somebody to ride in on a white horse and save us
right.
and make who is the party, who is the leader.
Yeah,
The
they want
reality,
like a Trump equivalent where it's like he's the party and it's like,
yes.
and I always tell people I'm like one of the big differences, and I saw someone talk about this and I think it's resonates so well, is they said one of the big differences between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, because everyone's like, oh, they all kind of believe the same, they all kind of do the same stuff. For me, one of the things that I've kind of told people is I'm like the Republican Party is very hierarchical. So they want someone at the top because that kind of forms the structure and everything like that. But I'm like, for the Democratic Party, we're bottom up. I was like, there's like they're like who's the leader of the Democratic Party? I'm like, there's never really supposed to be a leader of the Democratic Party. You know,
Oh,
it's supposed to be like,
but
oh, you've got Chuck, you've got Hakeem, you've got Biden, you've got Kamala, you got all these different kinds of people that are all working together to get to where they need to be.
so I will quibble. That was a
Go
brilliant
ahead, go ahead.
encapsulation. I will quibble with one thing you said. We're all leaders.
Yes, yes.
That's the difference. And we need to be empowering each of us from where we are to be that leader we're looking for,
Yeah,
right? Not to be going, somebody just needs to tell me what to do and what to think. We don't need people to tell us what to do and what to think.
yeah,
We need people to support the good ideas we have and the directions we want to go in, the things we want to do, right? That's the key. And if we continue to seek that model, right, where there's one person and it's about one cycle, we're going to keep having this ebb and flow and ebb and flow, and we're keyed up in October and then we're let down. And then we wait a year and a half and then we start building again to October for that first week in November. That is a recipe to continue to fail. And the good news is everybody running for chair right now is saying the same thing in terms of we have to be year round. We have to get staff, organizers, however you want to put it, in the field across the state. Everybody's saying that I'm going to do it. And
okay,
I have the relationships to be able to raise the money both in the state and nationally. And I have the relationships for people to regain trust in the party because I'm going to get out there. People keep asking me, are you going to move to Atlanta if you become chair of the party? I have seen last year I worked on the coordinated campaign and I was told to be at my desk 5 days a week at a high rise in downtown Atlanta. My mission was to reach rural voters and women voters.
yeah, it's not.
First of all, that's a lot of people for one person to be, have the responsibility for. But to say that I have to do that from a high rise office building in Atlanta is not the way to be successful at that. I
Yeah,
am going to be out across the state. People, you saw it. You said, hey, come be on my show. Absolutely. Yes, I'm going to be as many places as I can be really listening. I mean, listening. I think there's, again, I said there's some pain out there. We've got to work through it. We've got to get it out. We have to learn from the mistakes. And the mistakes aren't just from 2024. The mistakes, unfortunately, have been patterns we repeated over and over. Our county committees have not gotten support, have not gotten attention, have not gotten the respect that they deserve. And they're the infrastructure. You talked about how we're bottom up,
Yeah.
right? Well, that's the local.
Yep.
And we've got to start by strengthening the local. And we have a lot of county committees that are doing amazing work. And we have places where we've been unable to get a county committee going.
Yep.
We have to be able to understand that one size does not fit all and celebrate that diversity and understand that what is needed in Decatur might be different than what is needed in Rome,
Yep.
right? Or what is needed in Hahira. And we have to be able, we have leaders who have the energy to get us going in a big way, right? To
Yep.
get us cooking on all cylinders, right? Clicking on all cylinders, get
Right.
us moving. We just have to free people and engage people and tell people that's a great idea, go do it. And if they say, well, we don't have the money to get that started, well, let's either figure out how to help them raise the money or find a way that the party has the money to get those projects and programs going. Money is out there, right? We're going to be one of the only games in the country this year in 2025 to have statewide opportunities. Virginia and New Jersey have these off-year statewide elections. We have two statewide elections this year with the Public Service Commission.
Yep.
Think about those races. What are the two things that are really critical to a Public Service Commission race? It's about the economy and how our power bills and gas and light bills are
Yep.
skyrocketing, and it's also about what kind of energy we're producing, right? About climate change, about all of those environmental issues that really matter to so many of our activists and leaders, right? So across the country, it's going to be we want to do something. Well, come do it in Georgia,
Yep.
right? And I'm going to be able to get out there, first of all, get our ducks in a row, get people excited again instead of infighting, and get people doing exciting things, lift up our candidates for BSC, criticize the Republicans for not taking care of the consumers, which is what their role is supposed to be at the Public Service Commission,
Yep.
right? And then we have my favorite thing. We don't have enough time today for me to start
Yep.
talking about municipal races and how important
Yep.
they are, but we have hundreds of municipal races across the state. So every county, almost every county, probably not all 159, but hundreds, more than 100 counties have city elections this year, in addition to those two statewide races. So we have a chance of, with urgency, to get our infrastructure in order across the state and win some key races in November. We have a real shot at winning those two statewide races. We're going to win municipal races all across the state. And then we're going to hit this November ready to take on next year,
Yep.
right? Ready to get Senator Ossoff reelected, ready to win these statewide offices, or at least, make a lot more progress toward those statewide offices. And we're going to be prepared, and we're going to keep building and keep building, and we're not going to let up. And that's what we're going to be able to do by having this new energy of having a full-time chair who's out there all day, every day doing the work.
Yeah, definitely. I was gonna say I only got 3 minutes left, but I think you kind of summed everything up of how important this is, and I think that's kind of all. And just to kind of close this out, and then we can end this. That's always kind of been my frustration with the party is it's like we have really lofty goals. Like hey, we want to win governor of Georgia, and like that'd be huge for Georgia, especially when you start talking about abortion being on the ballot, or not necessarily being on the ballot, but some of that work. And I've always kind of been like, we really need like the party to be a little bit more cohesive and really pay attention to all races, even the public service, because I'm like it's a foundation. Once you kind of build that, then you can kind of start building momentum. So love everything you said, and I really appreciate you hopping on. This was great, and definitely want to keep in contact with you, like, and
Of
bring you back
course.
on. I know you're doing a bunch of other stuff independent of the party, so for me, it's just like let's get people involved. Let's tell people what's going on. Let's give people a voice. So I
I
thank you
love
for
that.
coming on, and we'll stay in touch.
Thank you so much. And if I can do a plug
Yeah,
for
go for
what
it.
I'm
Go for it.
doing right now with my campaign, I'm doing Wednesdays with Wendy.
Okay.
So I'm doing a Wednesday night conversation similar to the conversation you and
Yeah.
I had today, where I'm taking folks' questions. So you can go to Wendy, the number 4us.com and get the link to those. And thank you, Andrew, for what you're doing. We've got to do more of this, have real conversations. And I'm delighted that you took the time to talk with me today. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. You have a good day.
You too.